The Art of Sculpting Your Business podcast is broadcasting from The Hive. The Hive is a small business resource center designed to support an innovative and entrepreneurial ecosystem in Virginia Beach. The Hive offers mentorship, networking, and a variety of fundamental resources to those who need them. The Hive, where businesses thrive.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of The Art of Sculpting Your Business, a 6-part series dedicated to highlighting resources, tools, and tips designed to drive innovation and growth. We are your hosts, Lavira Tolentino and Sheila Johnson.
As many of you are aware, the city is currently implementing a comprehensive flood protection program that includes the design and construction of flood mitigation projects that will have a ripple effect that safeguards homes, protects businesses, responsibly address stormwater issues, and combats the effect of recurrent flooding throughout Virginia Beach for generations to come. In today's episode, we'll talk with Tonia Utterback, one of the lead engineers in our Public Works Department. We will learn more about the program and how small businesses can take advantage of contracting opportunities. Hello, Ms. Utterback.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Is it okay to call you Tony?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Let's dive into it. Tony, what is the Flood Protection Program?
Sheila, that's a really good question. So the Flood Protection Program was developed after the residents of Virginia Beach voted to approve a bond referendum in the amount of $567.5 million. When they approved that bond referendum, it allowed the city this additional funding to design and construct a program of projects across the city. So the Flood Protection Program is not just 21 projects. It's actually 41 projects across the city, and we have now created 7 master projects that contain 30 of those projects. So these projects are specifically related to areas that experience flooding related to more intense and frequent rainfall events and sea level rise.
Thank you so much. Anything else?
Well, there's a lot of information on the Flood Protection Program. So to get a little bit more in detail on some of the projects, there's 7 master projects, as I just said, and they're located across the city. And they cover the 4 main watersheds in the city. So this includes the Lynn Haven, the Elizabeth River, the Oceanfront, and the Southern Rivers watershed. So we wanted to make sure that the projects in the Flood Protection Program were scattered across the city so that residents could see improvements not in just certain areas in the city.
Thank you for that. How can our listeners find out more information about the Flood Protection Program?
So the Flood Protection Program has its own webpage with lots of information on it, and it is located at www.vbgov.com/ripple effect. Now, this website contains all this information about our 7 master projects. It has individual buttons you can click on to find out about all of the projects within each of those 7 master projects. And it also contains videos and an industry page that we hosted in April of this year. And that's important because this industry page that we had, we hosted contractors, architectural and engineering firms to give them an idea of our upcoming procurements.
Thank you so much for that. How long will it take for these programs to go from start to finish?
So the goal of the Flood Protection Program is to have designed and constructed all of the projects in the next 10 years, and that's a pretty lofty goal, but that was the promise that was made to residents, and we are moving forward on that path.
Thank you so much for that, Tony. Lavera, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Tony, again, thanks for joining us today. As you mentioned, this is a huge program, $567 million approved through a bond referendum. You talked about your industry day that was held. Is that recording, was that recorded and saved on a web page or on that page?
Yes. So that link is on that Ripple Effect webpage. It was recorded. you can go onto that industry web page and you can actually click on different sites. It's almost like virtual reality web page.
Okay.
So you enter the site and it has different stations where you can click on each of the 7 master projects. There's also a station that includes the procurement process. Included in each one of those stations is a recorded version where we did the recordings live that day, and it also has a version where you can download the presentations, the PDF version of the presentations that were done.
That is wonderful. So, my role with the city, as the SWAM program administrator, and then just working in the procurement office. You mentioned procurement, but one of the things I did want to ask you is, how can small businesses stay connected with the entire program?
So more information is available again on the Ripple Effect webpage. This is kind of the house page of all information related to the flood protection program. Also, in the industry page on that website, there is an attendee list. So for small businesses, they can actually go out there on that webpage and get connected with all of the contractors and architectural and engineering firms that attended Industry Day.
Oh, that's wonderful. So that kind of helps in any kind of like sub-consulting or subcontracting opportunities that might be available.
Yes.
To see who those attendees were. That's wonderful. So with this the flood protection program, are there various phases? And if it is, tell us a little bit about the different phases.
Yes. So each of the master projects, the projects within each one of the master projects are all in different phases. We have some that are in the planning phases. We have some that have already started construction. We have some that are in the design phases. So as I said, it's going to take 10 years to design and construct. So with the 10 years, we needed to schedule the projects so that they could be in different phases, so not all of them are going to construction at the same time.
Okay, so there's plenty of opportunity out there at some point during this 10-year phase in program.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, just to elaborate a little bit more on that, we actually have several projects that are going to be having some construction procurements coming up next year. And all that information will keep updated on the Ripple Effect webpage.
Okay, and we say ripple effect. So one thing we kind of talked about a little bit was how did we come up with the name Ripple Effect?
So that was a slogan that was coined by our communications department. They did a wonderful job with the campaign of the Ripple Effect. And there's a video on the Ripple Effect webpage that actually kind of gives a good demonstration on how the Ripple Effect was coined because all of the projects in the flood protection program across the city, even though you may not have a specific project in your neighborhood, the projects themselves will have a ripple effect across the city because they are helping all residents, because everybody travels every day to their work, their schools, anywhere. So the idea was the flood protection program has a ripple effect across the city that affects all citizens.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's creative, I would say. Can you kind of give us some next steps about the flood protection program, or just kind of tell us where it's going to go from, like maybe phase to phase, or just those in general next steps?
Mm-hmm. So we are in the implementation phase, I would say, of the flood protection program. It's only been since November. That doesn't seem very long ago when the bond referendum passed. And as soon as we had that available funding, we've been moving full speed ahead on implementing the projects in the program. So the first thing that we had to do was develop schedules for all of these projects to get them designed and constructed in 10 years. So we've done that. We are now kind of in the implementation phase as far as carrying out those schedules, along with the budgets with those schedules. So we have a complete roadmap, if you will, that we're moving out on constructing the projects.
Okay. Now, if you can tell us, when you talk about flood protection and the different projects, what kind of work is done when you do this kind of work or involved in these projects? We know the design part, but like the construction part, what kind of work is involved in that?
So I'll give you two really good examples. So coming up next year, we're going to have our largest procurement, which will be a design-build project. The design-build procurement will contain 7 individual projects. We will bundle them into one design-build procurement. That procurement includes 2 pump stations, large pump stations, tide gates to keep the water out, and also some flood barriers. So the idea on the flood protection program in this area, and this is in the Windsor Woods, Princess Anne Plaza, and the Lakes area, these projects will benefit those areas directly, is to install these tide gates that keeps the tide out, because when the tide is in, it doesn't allow our stormwater infrastructure to drain. So when we get a large rainstorm, if we have a high tide at the same time, all of that water is taking up the storage in our stormwater infrastructure. So the idea is to put the tide gates in to keep the water out. We will need to construct pumps behind those tide gates to pump out any severe rainfall that is occurring. And then the barriers is another protection for future higher sea level rise. And those will be constructed along the pump station walls, if you will.
Okay.
And I was going to talk about another one that's a really exciting project. It's the Bow Creek Golf Course. We're calling it the Bow Creek Stormwater Park, where we are converting a golf course in the city of Virginia Beach into a stormwater park. And that procurement, the first section of that project, that procurement will go out early spring next year.
So a stormwater park. I mean, when you talk to me about a park, I'm envisioning swings and slides, and I know that's not it. So
No.
kind of tell me what a stormwater park looks like.
Okay, so the real reason of a stormwater park is to hold back stormwater, but the fact that we're making it a park is to have amenities. They're going to be trails. So this is a 100-acre golf course. So we are going to have trails. We're going to have overlooks, because there will be wet ponds, there will be dry ponds, there will be pickleball courts. It's going to be a full park, and with the help of Parks and Recreation, we are going to make this a destination for the city.
Wow, that is very interesting. So now, you might not know all the details of this, but we're talking about a little bit of destination. So is this park, is it going to be like open and free for everyone? Do you know that, or is it just to the community here in Virginia Beach?
Yes, it will be open. There will be a couple different access points for people to park, and I kind of relate it to something similar to First Landing State Park, even though that's much larger and lots of trees. You know, this is an open golf course, so obviously not too many trees.
Right.
But I relate it to something like that, where it's going to be very natural.
So this park will serve dual purposes.
Absolutely.
In doing the stormwater relief kind of thing, as well as providing, outdoor adventure and entertainment for folks that are visiting the area, and more importantly, the citizens here in Virginia Beach.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. So we got to make sure, Sheila, we visit the park when it opens.
Exactly. You know what it reminds me of? Sort of like a Mount Trashmore. Right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that, right? That people are familiar with.
That is awesome. And pickleball, I got my first opportunity to see pickleball live in action one day on TV, and I had no idea that it was just similar to tennis. No idea whatsoever, but it looks like fun, but it's not something I could probably do.
Maybe if you get some lessons.
We need to, we can talk about that later, starting pickleball lessons. How about that?
Yes. I love it.
So just a few more questions regarding the flood protection program. How you mentioned that you had an industry day. Is that a good way to stay connected, or are there other opportunities that are coming up where you have another industry day or anything like that, or any other outreach events you're planning?
So we do expect to have another industry day probably later next year. The idea of the industry day, the first one we had back in April, was to basically get the contracting community familiar with our program. We wanted to get the word out there that Virginia Beach has all this funding, and we're going to be designing and constructing all these projects in the next 10 years. So we wanted to let the community know, and this isn't just Virginia Beach. We had attendees from outside of Virginia. that attended this event, to let them know that we have all this work coming forward. But to answer your question, so the additional information on the program, we regularly attend Civic League meetings. We do public meetings on all of our projects. We do multiple meetings with neighborhoods to keep them informed. I know back in the spring, we met with the Eastern Shore Drive community and did a public meeting to let them know all of the projects we're doing in that area. We regularly meet with the Windsor Woods Prince Anne Plaza and the Lakes Civic League meetings. We attend them monthly, and then a couple times a year we do full presentations. So to answer your question, we're doing our best to keep the public informed of the flood protection program.
And that's really good information to know that you attend the neighborhood meetings and the Civic League meetings, because it helps get the information out to the residents and prepare them for what's coming up along the construction area in their neighborhoods and all of that. And then, as you pointed out, this too could also spill over into the business community, because they want to know what contracting opportunities are available, and not only that, they want to be in those areas to safeguard their businesses. What to expect along the way when the construction occurs in their business area. And so I know you all have a website, Public Works. You have a website where you post some of your design work, RFPs, and then Purchasing also has a website where they can find these opportunities that are coming up as well. Is there any, you talked a little bit about the start date of the program, and I think you've already started some. When can we see, when do you think it's going to be heavy into doing a lot of the projects, or are we scaling the projects so that there's not a lot of construction going on at one time in Virginia Beach?
Well, right now we actually have 4 projects under construction now. And I think the majority, the public will begin to see the majority of construction beginning in a couple years. Now, next year we will start the Bow Creek Stormwater Park, but full-blown construction will probably be later next year on that project. But the large design-build project that I talked about, because it is going to be a design-build procurement, that means that the firm that wins that award will be in design in the next couple years. The construction on that big project probably won't begin until probably late 25 or early 26. So we have done a good job of kind of having the construction schedules so that neighborhoods aren't all being impacted at the same time, but they are scattered throughout the city. So it's not like it's going to impact the same people continually. We do have the projects over in Eastern Shore Drive that are going to begin in 24. Those construction projects will begin in 2024. So I think beginning next year, the public is basically going to start seeing construction on all of the projects in the program continuously for the next 10 years. The other thing that I wanted to mention, our construction projects, we're going to have the ripple effect sign posted at all of our construction projects. So right now, there are 4 projects under construction, and you can see the ripple effect sign. It's keeping the same branding that we had in the campaign with the different blue colors, and it says brought to you by the ripple effect, because we want the public to know where the funding is going. We want them to see the flood protection program at work.
That's awesome. So they know that this particular project here is due to the ripple effect program, and those dollars from that bond referendum. Well, this is some amazing information, and we always want to keep the public informed. We always want to know, let our small business community know what's going on in contracting and subcontracting arena. And so you mentioned there is going to be another industry day. I know the last one was virtual. Is this one going to be virtual or in person? How do you see
We haven't determined that yet. Like I said, it's going to be probably next year, hopefully, when we're further along in some design, when we have more information to give to the contracting community. So that hasn't been determined yet, whether it be virtual or it could be a hybrid of both.
Okay. Nice. So is there any upcoming, like you mentioned, there's civic meetings or your neighborhood meetings? Do you post those on the website, or is that the Civic League handles all the advertisement that this meeting is coming?
The Civic League meetings are generally posted on their own web pages. If it's a city-sponsored meeting, for example, the public meeting we had on Eastern Shore Drive, we have that information on our web page.
Okay, so we can look at the Public Works webpage for city-sponsored meetings regarding flood protection program or any other actually project that the city is doing and has a public meeting on.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, Tony, it's been great having you here. Thank you so much. And from a procurement standpoint, the design build project procurement, we're looking forward to that. We know we got a lot of projects that are coming up under flood protection program, along with all the hard work you Public Works already does. We're looking forward to working with Public Works on these projects here from a procurement standpoint. So at that, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I do know for a fact that some of the contractors are already calling you. We are referring them all to the SWAM office to get all of the information, because obviously we're not the experts on that. So just be forewarned, you will be probably getting a lot of phone calls from people about our program and how they can meet the goals.
Absolutely, and we welcome those, because it's
absolutely.
We say we want them to know how the program works, so when they submit that bid or proposal, they know what to put in there, what to include, and how our program, how we evaluate that and look at those subcontracting or sub-consulting opportunities for our SWAM business community. So we definitely welcome that, and thank you for sending them to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Sheila, did you have any questions?
Well, I tell you, Tony, again, like Lavera said, thank you so much for coming in on today. I have seen that ripple effect signage in my neighborhood. And so this was very informative for me as a citizen, but I think it will be very helpful for other citizens in Virginia Beach as well. So thank you so much for that information. I think she dropped quite a few gems on today.
Absolutely.
And so here are a couple of things. I just wanted to do a quick recap, and you can jump in, Tony or Lavera, as well. We learned about the flood protection program, how small businesses can take advantage of contracting opportunities. We learned about the different phases of the program as well. We also learned the start to finish timeline. We also got information from you on how individuals can really go and learn more. And then also, I think the biggest piece as well, Lavera, we learned about the ripple effect.
Yeah. And how about the park, the Stormwater Park?
The Stormwater Park. I'm saying that's exciting.
It is. And it's amazing how you can have a park that serves a purpose as important as that.
Absolutely.
So I think that's amazing. So let me ask you, I'm going to go back and ask you about this park. How did that come about? I don't want to say whose idea it was, but how did you all come up with this idea?
So without getting into the details of the engineering, the Bow Creek Golf Course is located in the Princess Anne Plaza area of the city. That is some of the lowest areas, and were very affected by Hurricane Matthew back in 2016. So the one thing, when you look at a map of the city, if it was a topographic map, you can see that is a depression, if you will. And the Princess Anne Plaza and the Lakes area do not have any stormwater storage currently. So those neighborhoods were built, Princess Anne Plaza specifically was built back in some of the early days, even when the city began back in the 60s. So some of the neighborhoods in that area don't have any stormwater infrastructure. There's no stormwater storage. So when we had to come up with a plan to mitigate the effects of flooding, there's the golf course right there in the middle. This is an opportunity for us to create stormwater storage. But we needed a lot of storage. So the idea of just digging a big hole in the ground wasn't very appealing. So we actually wanted to team with Parks and Recreation and come up with a plan that was more appealing, and decided on this park. So that's why we're using it as stormwater storage, which the residents, if you were to go to the park, they're not even going to realize that is a stormwater park.
Right.
But it's going to be active during major storm events. And what I mean, there'll be different levels of stormwater storage. So like I said, there's going to be some wet ponds, but some of them will just be dry areas that are wetland plantings. So they'll be used when it's needed for storms, but otherwise it's just going to look like a natural park.
That's exciting.
That's even, because that was one of my questions. Am I going to see like huge, barriers or anything like that or anything? But it's just going to look just like a regular park, basically.
Natural. And in fact,
natural with these different features.
Yes. And we have a web page actually for the Bow Creek Stormwater Park. And it has some really good renderings out there that kind of show what it's going to look like.
Oh, amazing. Okay. So is that with ripple effects as well?
There's a link from the ripple effects.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I'm sorry. I went back to questions
It's okay.
because this park is just, to me, like, it's amazing.
I'm with you. I mean, it's just kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure not only is the community excited about it, but certainly the residents of Virginia Beach as well. So I can't wait to see this park and play pickleball.
Right. But this just kind of gives you the full picture of about an amazing team that the city of Virginia Beach has.
Absolutely.
Collaborating with one another, whether it's public works and parks, coming up with these ideas, creative ideas to do a concept such as this. It just tells you about the amazing citizens in Virginia Beach as well as the employees that work for the city.
Absolutely.
And collaboration. So it's been great. Thank you, Tony, so much.
Yes, Tony, thank you.
You're very welcome.
So to our audience out there, if you have any questions regarding this week's episode of The Art of Sculpting Your Business, send it to artofbiz@vbgov.com. Again, that's artofbiz@vbgov.com. And again, this is Lavera Tolentino and Sheila Johnson, and Sheila's going to take us out.
Yes, so next week we'll, of course, continue our conversation. Our special guest will be Dr. Kinston Griffin of Dream Builders Communication. The topic, the entrepreneurial mindset. When do you know you're ready?